Dear students, in this tutorial we're going to see a mixture of different informations that we are going to be using combined with the pattern option from Painter. We have been looking for a few different patterns and the pattern that we can be using with the pattern tool, the pattern that we can use just as a filling tool, and I would like just to combine it with a few other functions from Painter that we have seen in earlier tutorials. So the first thing to do is I would like to open a new file, and at the moment you're working with a pattern, and this would be kind of a wallpaper type of pattern. I really recommend you guys to be aware of the size of it. If it's just an illustration, you're painting a living room and you would like to put this pattern on the background, it's not necessary to make it too large, but if you're really creating a pattern to be printed as a wallpaper pattern, then I would really stop and think which should be the size of it, so that you're creating one-to-one to the size that it's going to go to your walls in your house. Okay, so since we're working with an illustration and it's going to be quite small, I would like to be working with something that is not too small but is not too large either, and works on both senses. So I'm going to open a new file, and I'm going to be working with our default kind of training size, 10 by 10 centimeters on 300 pixels per inch. 300 knowing that it's the size that you need to be working one-to-one. It's a good resolution size for images. And in this moment we're going to be working with the symmetry tool. I'm going to open the symmetry tool here on the left side of my screen, and we have now a line crossing my illustration positioned exactly in the middle of it. And I'm going to the patterns, and if you don't have this open, go to window, and we have here command 8. We have patterns, so that you get this window with the library and the pattern functions open. And then I'm going to the menu from pattern, and I'm going to say define pattern. So at the moment we have now define pattern, and we have the symmetry tool on. We can start painting. Select the brush you would like to be working with, and we can start painting with our symmetry tool active. So you can see now that I was working on the first layer. I would recommend you guys not to do so. So open a new layer, and everything you do first as a sketch, for example, can come in this layer, and you can see that like this we could just start illustrating a wallpaper pattern. I prepared this already so that we don't need to see this part. It's down here. And I just put it on an extra layer, and I reduced the opacity from this image, and now I'm going to be kind of filling up this whole information on an extra layer. And I'm going to grab a tool that works quite flat, like for example Vakshaba. And now I'm going to doing this on high speed, and I'll talk to you in a second. Okay, now we have our pattern done. I just saved it as a PSD file since I would like to have the layers, and I'm erasing the first layer with the drawing that I did before. I'm just deleting it, and I'm deactivating the symmetry tool. You can see now that I turned this off. and I have to reduce everything to the first layer. Going to collapse layers. I'm selecting it all by pressing Command A, and I'm going to the pattern library, and I could down here say save pattern, or I could go to the menu from patterns and I could say here save pattern. I need to give it a name, wallpaper, saving. And now I'm going to open a new file and I'm going to test this. Symmetry tool I'm turning off again, it just turned on, so I'm just turning this off again. See, we have a preview of it on our library already. I can just go to the filling tool, paying attention that I have this cloner information up here, and I could just fill up my image. So at the moment I filled up my image, I can have an idea of if this is interesting or not. If you're working with patterns, I would make a combination of bigger drawings and smaller drawings so that it gives a little of a break between them and fills up the areas. And I would try to avoid very large areas in white, but still giving some air between the patterns. I have a pattern that I like just now for the sketch and for the purpose, and I would like now to make it a little bit smaller so that I have a little bit more pattern in here. So Command Z, I'm going to decrease the size of this. Okay, so this is more or less the size I would like to have, and I would like to create a paper out of this pattern. So first thing that I would do, select it all, knowing that everything is on the working space or working area down here on the first layer from pattern. And I would go to the paper library and I would say save structure, or I would go to the menu and here I could say save structure. By doing that, I have to give a name to this. I'm going to the spacing on 0. And now I have a new paper that is on my library as well, and opening a new file on the same size that I had before. And I'm going to grab this time a tool that gives me some texture. So I'm going, for example, to pastel square hard. Here we have it. And I'm increasing a little bit the size of my brush. I'm opening a new layer and I'm trying this up here. It's not working at all because I did not select the paper, so I have to select the paper first. And now we can see here my pattern on my wallpaper. Okay, so at the moment I did this, and actually I could do more or less the same using the drawing we had before, so we can try this out as well. So I'm just closing this one, don't have to save it, we have the pattern just up here. I could select it all and I could go to paper and I could just say wallpaper 2, save us a few steps, and I have now one image up here. I could just select my wallpaper. It's going to be quite large, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I could do it even smaller. I have the impression this is just too large for my illustration, but at the same time this is a pattern that, since we were working with this define pattern mode from pattern, it's going to be a needless pattern. So I can really make it smaller, and I could reduce it then a little bit more. On the size we just did, 10 by 10 centimeters, this is the minimum size I can have from it. And afterwards, if you would like to have a little bit a combination of textures and patterns in here, I could, for example, just grab another type of pattern that comes out of photography. You can have like a pattern that you can do yourself with with texturized painting on paper and take a picture of it, or you can do this on Painter as well, working with the textures from the paper and with, for example, the Sargent brushes. I would just take out the color information of it. So going to Effect, Tonwertkontrolle, I would just say color correction, and I would just take off all the saturation, and maybe I could work a little bit with the brightness and darknesses of it. And I could as well maybe work a little bit of contrast so that it's a bit stronger, like this. And now I could select it all, copy it by working with Command A, Command C, and then I could go to the image that I had before. I can open a new layer, I can paste it in here, and then I could just say Überzug. And like this, we have now an image that has the paper structure that you just developed by using patterns with an illustration. And if you can see a little bit closer, we have as well this texturized type of image that we just put it on top of the layer that we are working. And everything that is on this layer is going to act on everything that is underneath it. And we have as a quality, at least in German, called Überzug. Yeah, that's it. I hope you can try a little bit out and start combining the different informations and different tutorials that we have been seeing until now into something that could be quite interesting for your illustration. Okay, talk to you soon on the next tutorial. Bye bye.